Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I would like to talk about the 10-foot pole. That's right, it's a pole, it's 10 foot long, and it's super useful. So what can you do with a 10-foot pole when you're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5e or Dungeons & Dragons full stop? Well, as the picture suggests, it's really the 10-foot pole is all about trying to touch stuff that you don't really want to touch. Okay? Don't want to touch it, so we're going to use the pole. And normally 10-foot poles, as the thumbnail suggests, is all about traps, but it's not the only thing you can use your 10-foot pole. If you turn to your player's handbook, you will discover that it gives you absolutely no information whatsoever in any of the pages about what you can do with your 10-foot pole. Although there are plenty of people just like myself who are willing to tell you how you can use your 10-foot pole and where you can put it. I would say a 10-foot pole is a super useful object. One of the things you definitely want to take with you, because it's very useful for leverage. You can stick your stick underneath something heavy, and as long as you've got something under the other side, you can use it as leverage. That's the concept, right? Leverage, long stick for moving heavy objects. So leverage, very helpful. Checking for traps. And this particular mouse has left out a very dangerous and large mouse trap for the young lady here. But she's right onto it. She's brought her stick with her and she's going to make sure she doesn't. So really the 10-foot pole was all about you had somebody in front. Nobody was standing in front of you if you had the 10-foot pole. You were in front. You were the one who was going to prod the walls, the floor, the ceiling, because you had no idea where the dungeon master, or in fact the creator of some horrific story, had placed the traps. They weren't on the doors all the way. Sometimes they're on the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling. You needed to be prodding just about everything. So that's what your prodding tool's all about. One of my favorite suggestions is definitely the pole vaulting. I love the idea of pole vaulting. Super useful for those of you who haven't seen the movie Tremors, for avoiding creatures that try to eat you from below, that move around in the dirt, and they can sense you, tremor sense. So that's the purple worm. So if you need to get from boulder to boulder and avoid those purple worms that might want to sort of suck you down into the earth, learn how to pole vault. Make sure you take that 10-foot pole with you. I think somebody mentioned to me also that it's really useful for gauging the depth of water. So when you're exploring a dungeon, something like that, you'll find as a general rule that it's very dark and it's hard to actually figure out how deep it is. Now, somebody else might suggest, well, you just grab yourself a rope, you tie a stone to it, and you drop it in there, and then you can find out how deep it is. But really, you don't really know how deep it is. But I think the most accurate way is definitely the 10-foot pole. If it's deeper than 10 foot, you don't want to go in. Okay? Knocking things over. Whether that be for any good reason or bad reason, that's beside the point. They're really handy for knocking things over as you're walking around a very confined location, or just because you want to be annoying. One of my favorite ideas, and I thought this was brilliant, and that is for those of you who like to perform, do shows, things like that, this portable pole provides you with an opportunity to do a bit of pole dancing. So jam that thing underneath a tree branch, and then of course, put a few rocks around the bottom, jam it into the ground, and now you've got yourself a really handy dandy pole dancing pole where you can swing yourself around. Very entertaining. Of course, maybe he's not quite as entertaining as you would like, but also it's supposed to be extremely good exercise. I've been told many times that even if I dislike the idea of pole dancing, it is in fact a well-developed sport and exercise, and it's quite common. So why not incorporate it into your game of Dungeons & Dragons? Transporting prisoners and dinner. So if you've shot a deer, you can tie its legs around this pole and two people can carry it wherever they like to go. Okay. Transporting prisoners, well, you don't really want to have them walking, you want to carry them. I don't know why you would want to carry them. I would have sort of just tied their legs a little bit so they couldn't run too far, and then tied a rope around their neck. But apparently you can carry prisoners with this pole. An improvised weapon. Would never have considered using a 10-foot pole as an improvised weapon, but apparently you can use it as an improvised weapon. I imagine you're supposed to make it pointy at one end or at two ends, or just whack things with it. Pushing levers and objects over. Now, pushing levers makes an awful lot of sense. That's that lever that you have to reach, that you know if you touch something bad is going to happen, or you think something bad will happen, or you're going to press the little button to see what's going to happen if you press the button. Use that 10-foot pole. Controlling a raft. I thought this was quite sensible. Provided that, of course, that the stream or river that you're using your raft in is not deeper than 10 feet. Otherwise, it's not going to do very much. I mean, you can swing it around in the water or swish it around, and maybe if you do that fast enough, it'll provide you with some ability to control where the raft goes, but I doubt it. You can at least use it to push against rocks that you might be trying to slam into as you're getting pushed by the rapids down a river, so that's not a bad idea. Someone suggested that it's a great supply of bulk wooden stakes so that you can give every vampire that you see a fantastic time, just like this fellow here. This is obviously the one that's most useful to you, right? And that is the tightrope. Every time you come across that rickety bridge and there's only one rope that you can get across it, you can use your 10-foot pole to improve your chances of getting across there alive. Not a bad idea, although you could just shimmy across by hooking your legs over the top of that rope and doing the same thing with your hands and just going hand over hand until you get to the other side. Or you could just play it a bit riskier and just go with the stand on the rope and use your pole. Balancing on a tight rope. For those of you who like to catch their own food, you can use your pole not only as an opportunity to keep you out of the reach of those very hungry sharks, although those poles I think are a bit longer than 10 feet, but you can use your 10-foot pole with a string or a rope of some kind and put a little hook on it, some bait, and you can go fishing. Get yourself some food. Creating a spear. We talked about the improvised weapon. I think, creating a spear, get that dagger, a bit of rope or twine, wrap it round, and suddenly you've got yourself a handy dandy improvised spear. Climbing a flat surface. This one I thought was quite interesting. Climbing a flat surface has got to be pretty difficult to do, I would imagine. Climbing a pole is probably got to be pretty difficult too. So does that mean you lean it up against the flat surface and have to sort of jam something at the bottom to make sure that it doesn't slide out from underneath you while you try to clamber up the pole? I feel like the flat surface that's vertical is tough, and the pole isn't much better, not unless you've got it on a slight angle and you hang on real tight. It's got to be easier just to clamber up a rope, doesn't it, really? I suppose it's like a short 10-foot rope. I suppose you can treat it like that. Limbo dancing. For those times when you get bored at night and you've got nothing else to do after having dinner, you can get that thing out and you can go and do a bit of limbo dancing. Barring a door. So if you've got a double door and there's monsters on the other side and they're chasing you down, then you can put that thing, bar that door up, slide it through, stop them from getting through the door. Of course, it's got to be a pretty thick 10-foot pole, otherwise it's probably not going to survive the barrage and punishment. A spit for cooking meat. So jam that stick through that animal you want to cook, stick it on the fire, and then you can now rotisserie rotate it until it's cooked. I do feel like the problem will be that the wood might catch fire and eventually burn through and drop your food into the fire, but it's a fantasy adventure. We don't need to worry about real mechanics, do we really? Jam that pole into a closing door. That's so hang on, do I jam the 10-foot pole into the door as it's being closed to stop it closing, or do I jam it into the door when it's already closed? And how is that going to get me, I suppose, leverage? Allow me better leverage for trying to get the door open, and possibly might work. One of the things I've found entertaining as I read through the many suggestions that I had collected from Facebook, and that is place a helmet, I'm guessing a helmet for some armor, on a stick as a target when you're in an ambush. Or I guess as a target so that somebody can shoot at it rather than your actual head that might be inside the helmet. Not a bad idea. Will it work? I'm not sure. Truthfully, I wouldn't hold my hope that it will work. So don't worry so much about that one. Prodding or whacking other characters that you find incredibly annoying. That could be quite useful, although that might create a little bit of animosity between the party members at some point. Using it to pull other people out of pit traps. Obviously, we've talked about the 10-foot pole being the main tool for dealing with traps, but once they've fallen into the trap, spiked themselves, if they're still alive, then you can pull them out, as long as, of course, the pit isn't too deep. If it's more than 10-15 feet, it's probably not going to help you in the slightest. Stirring, or using the stick to stir a really big cauldron or big pot of food. Yes, I can see that. Quite practical. Navigating in the dark by using it as a cane to tap around to figure out where you're going. Well, that seems incredibly sensible, because don't they do that in real life? They may not use a 10-foot pole, but they certainly use a cane. So I'll give you that one. What about using it as firewood to heat food up or stay warm? Very sensible, but how much firewood can you get from a 10-foot pole? I don't think it's going to be enough to burn for a long time. It might be enough to get the fire started and just use as kindling. So, okay. Prodding trash piles so you don't have to use your hands and you can keep your hands clean. Very sensible, like that one quite a lot. You can also break it into very short sticks, much like the vampire scenario, but break it into very short sticks and play fetch with your favorite animal companion or friendly dogs. I feel that the dog won't be too concerned about the size of the stick. I would just throw the 10-foot pole as it is. I'm sure that the dog will bring it back. Use it to climb giant steps or embankments. I think this is the pole vaulting concept coming in, trying to apply it in a real way, or Dungeons and Dragons sort of scenarios. Beating a dusty curtain or tapestry. Well, I've seen that in movies. I'll give you that one. It certainly could be used to beat curtains and tapestries. It could be used to beat many different things, in fact. You can make it into a set of drumsticks so that you can play your tribal drums as you prepare for your war or your battle or your, I don't know, just pastime. And of course, it is essentially there so that you can poke anything that you really don't want to touch, as we've said. So this is my little video on how you can use your 10-foot pole. Now, always the question, now this is the one to pay attention to, is, hang on, Fred, I'm exploring a 5-foot wide passage dungeon and I'm carrying a 10-foot pole. How am I supposed to get through the passageway and actually around a confined location like a dungeon that only has passageways that are 5 foot wide and I have a 10-foot pole? Very simple. Turn it the other way, because the other end is very narrow. You're not supposed to carry it so that it's pointing to the left and the right. You're supposed to point it forward. No problems. You won't have any problems about it. And you don't carry a 10-foot pole. You will never have a chance to put it away, because you're supposed to be tapping everything, checking for traps. Okay? So that's it. That's all I have. If you found this video helpful or informative, please share it and like the video. If you want to see more of this sort of content, there's bound to be more, so subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the bell button to be notified when I do another video or when I go live, like I am right now. If you want to support my channel, you supported my channel by sitting through this right now, and well done. If you want to really support me, watch more of my videos. That the most obvious thing to do is just watch more of my videos. Anything that looks entertaining to you or interesting or educational. I have a lot of educational videos apparently. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description I have those affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission. Basically, you pay the same price, just go through the link and then buy what you want. You don't have to buy the thing I've linked to, just go through that link. Okay, now if you want to talk to me in the chat, this is the time. Make sure you start typing frantically before I leave. And otherwise, if you're not part of the live stream, that's what the comment section's for. Tell me, what do you use your 10-foot pole for? If you even take a 10-foot pole. And I don't really want to hear, Fred, the 10-foot pole, it's over for the 10-foot pole. There's always a place for the 10-foot pole. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.